welcome to the MadTrio podcast. This week we have the California Pariah, Jonathan Charney. We have James, the Fat Man Stevens.
Hello.
And the third man, Ryan Preston. So, out of the couple of weeks ago, we did a discussion partially about the Me Too movement, Bill Cosby. A friend of mine wrote to me and kind of gave her opinion of our discussion. And I figured I would just read what she said. So here we go. Bill Cosby discussion. Okay, I laughed at his first meal in prison. Pudding was karma. LOL. Overall discussion about Cosby was a good discussion. Touched on disappointing that he tried to be good in the world, yet through drugging and raping women was okay. Thought that drugging and raping women was okay. It is okay to appreciate the good things he did while thus being upset at the horrible things he did. Point one to Ryan. Okay, history contains a lot of violence and rape, but does that make it okay to continue? Is there a point where this movement has gone too far? Her comment was no, sorry, but no. At what point should the poor choice of his at what point should that poor choice of his affect him? Until justice is brought. As he said, the woman is affected for the rest of her life. Let's see. Due process was not a fact in the Supreme Court situation because it wasn't in a court of law. It was a fancy job interview. I would say it's the world's longest job interview. Due process is not required. Many on both sides wanted FBI investigation, but it would hinder it. But it was hindered and key witnesses ignored. That was closest thing that you would have gotten to due process. Statute of limitations. He may not be the same guy he was as 35 years ago, but he also not the greatest guy, said something to try to make it right.
Okay, she's talking about Bill Cosby or Kavanaugh.
This is the whole thing. She said she listened to the whole show and wrote down as she was listening to it the first thing.
Okay, well, I was just wondering which one she was referring to. I assumed it was Kavanaugh because of the job interview thing.
Yeah,
but
my apologies. I didn't. I should have actually made some notes for myself to read it.
Okay.
This is about Kavanaugh. Instead of pretending like he didn't happen, own up. Rape is not being used. Stupid iPad. Rape is not being used and thrown around. Women are starting to be more confident in stepping forward. Different types of sexual assault. Testosterone-fueled athletes that can't control his behavior versus sadistic, calculated thing you get from politicians and dudes with power. No.
Okay, well,
they're both still sexual assaults. Let's read this and then we can comment. Because there's a lot here. I do agree that if someone is willing to stand up and admit his wrongs and that he paid his time, that he can better himself and possibly run for office. Revlist.com discussion statute of limitations. Memories are feasible, but trust me, you remember an assault forever. Yes, this is an old case, but she came forward because he is up for a lifetime up for a lifetime seat on the Supreme Court. Overall, I think the discussion was good, and you came off as very anti-rape and assault. This wasn't as cringy as I expected. 3 straight white dudes discussing sexual assault would be. I think some comments were out of touch, but overall your stance was pretty positive. I did leave some stuff out that if she ever comes on with us, I would rather her say than me repeating, because I just don't think it would have the same effect, to be completely honest. So, any comments before we continue on?
Well, there's a lot to. Thank you for your comment, ma'am.
So, if you want,
I was actually laughing at when she said it was right before she mentioned it was less cringeworthy than she thought it was going to be.
So, how about this? If you want, I can send you guys this. And then we can discuss it more in next week's episode, because there's a lot here to kind of digest, and I'm still kind of
why don't you do that? Because I mean, I don't want to just kind of like try to pick little parts of it apart, because it's just my initial response would be, because I just
I'll tell you what. But I'm good with more or less my comments here. I don't think we need to devote an entire episode to an email. I was going to say I definitely appreciate the comment. I was chuckling that it wasn't as cringeworthy as she thought it was going to be, but then I could see how you could see it might be cringeworthy based on our general point of view on anything. But
her opinion,
yeah, no, I'm glad that we come off as rape is deplorable.
Because because excuse me, she actually Facebook messaged me about this, and I told her we try to be in the middle. Most of the time in discussions like this, I generally try to give ideas because, to be completely honest, I'm not necessarily intelligent enough to be able to answer, especially this particular comment, in any way that would come up as meaningful. Because
just want to see how long it is.
It's a fairly long.
That is a
to
pretty long thing. It looks like an essay to me.
To be completely honest,
well, look. Here's my thing: is I don't really feel like we're taking a hard stance that rape is wrong. It's not like we're the only ones dying on this hill. You know what I'm saying? I feel like this is a pretty obligatory opinion.
I think the stance is not necessarily that, but I think it's the fact that more women are talking about it, so it's becoming something that's conversation.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Here's something that's interesting. I find it disturbing that she would, and I mean this. Take this in the spirit in which it's intended. That she would almost assume that people of our general disposition, straight white male, if you want to call it that. Would be cringeworthy. The fact that that's sort of the knee-jerk reaction, it makes me sad that somebody would automatically, that women in general might automatically assume that a straight white male would have opinions other than that, other than fucking rape is shitty.
Hold on. So I will say that, how do I put this? That this I think this also has to do. God, I don't want to taint or flavor this one way, but I'm not quite sure how to frame this. But I also think that's been her experience.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what makes me sad is that that's her experience. And that's a lot of women's experience, is to assume that a straight white male opinion on rape would be anything other than that's terrible and that's the worst thing ever. It's sad.
I would say part of it, excuse me, an experience is, I promise I'm not dying, but I sound like it in every fucking episode. I think part of it is, especially if you look at kind of some of the culture. You take a look at people who throw stuff out like, I love the guy, but Ted Nugent. You talk about our president, other guys in popular culture. You could even say kind of the broski culture where stuff like that is thrown around. I've known guys in the past who said literally, and this is a quote, just put your dick in her lap, in her hand, and tell her just, you need to do what you got to do. So it is part of, for some reason, I don't understand it, it's part of the male bravado, because to be completely honest, my dad would have literally kicked my ass if I had said and or done any of that.
So
you're right, yeah.
But I think John's on a good point of, in her experience, she would probably be thinking like we're the stereotypical white males who would be Trump supporters and tried to downplay Kavanaugh's.
Okay, I guess this actually makes my point is that what I mean? I feel bad, and not in like some social fucking snowflake justice warrior way, but I feel bad that would be the stereotype for a straight white male.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Point.
I feel bad that my opinions on rape might be fringe, I suppose.
But I mean, I think stereotypes, unfortunately, are stereotyped for a reason. That at some point there was a degree of the population who was like that, or there was the best example. And this is a really poor example, by the way. Would be like with Rodney King. You could say, "Oh, all cops are like that," or "All African Americans are like that." There's some point in history there was some guy who made a big enough mark at what he did that would have become the stereotype. But I don't think it was one guy. I think it was a particular male subculture. By the way, of any and every race, I've met people like who are like that of every color and creed. So you can fuck off. You think I'm being racist?
Yeah, all I'm saying is I
Well-
didn't feel like us three going against rape was sort of going against the pale, you know. So I'm sorry to any woman who felt like we would have done anything other than say rape is the worst thing
Condemn
ever.
it.
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah, you know.
But John is on a decent point of the fact that stereotypes are not always wrong. I mean, there's generally whatever race or culture or area that you're in, whether it be, when I say that, be ghetto or rich neighborhood or middle class neighborhood, there is always going to be some type of people.
Which, by the way,
doesn't matter.
Stereotypes fucking suck. No matter
But,
who you are, they
You
suck.
know, there's going to be people that live up to that stereotype.
Yeah.
That's just
Well,
the way I look
okay,
at it.
here's the thing. I'm unpacking a couple of things here. One, we're all way closer individually than we ever are different as a group. Getting that out of the way. Stereotypes
100%.
happen for a number of different reasons. You know, they can be created through propaganda, you know, one country versus another, and things just stick. We all know when the
Like
internet
rats and hogs,
culture, things have a
eagles,
tendency to stick.
predator bird.
What about what?
Well,
Well, I said like rats and birds of prey, like an eagle.
like, you know, no, I
Yeah.
agree. Whether it's through like popular culture, whether it's through media,
Propaganda.
I would say
Yeah.
propaganda and
Yeah,
media are two
propaganda,
different things. Because, for example,
Well, that's why I didn't throw it in as that.
Well, no, I would
let you do,
give
you know,
Jarny the point of media is different than sort of propaganda in as much
Yeah.
as the media sort of disproportionately reports, you know, like based off of reporting, you would think that murders happen all the time, but that's
They
just
do.
what sells the news.
But murders do happen all the time.
well, no, but that would
Murders happen less today than they ever have, ever.
Well, I mean, there's at least a couple murders every hour.
you know,
That's what I'm saying. Murders happen all the time. Doesn't matter if it's
yeah,
here,
but okay,
there, or-
okay.
so
I
that's
get your point.
Shut up,
so
Nick.
I would also say, you know,
Literally speaking, yeah.
popular culture, media, propaganda. I also think how you grew up. You know, if you're a guy who lives in the deep South and your dad's one of these, you know, Confederate raving, Nazi saluting rednecks, then that's the worldview you grew up with. And that also taints things because you're more likely to agree with that. I think he laughed.
No, he's just choking on his
I'm
rage.
not what?
Oh, I think you laughed at my redneck
Choking
comment.
on my rage here.
No, I was breaking up there. I was going to ask you to repeat it.
Oh, I said, you know, or worldview. You know, if you grew up and your dad was one of these, you know, skinhead, you know, Confederate flag waving, Hitler saluting rednecks, then your worldview was tainted by that particular worldview. So you're automatically going to assume anybody who's not within your monoculture is.
Yeah, and certain things are just straight up cultural, you know, differences, you know, being interpreted in different ways.
Yeah. And I'm not a big fan of stereotypes. I mean, in comedy, they're funny to agree because it gets your point across. Look at Dave Chappelle, for example. Some of his stuff is incredibly stereotypical, but it's funny
And racist.
and funny
Well-
because it's the way he presents it. But he's also
Well, yeah.
But he's also not saying
Absolutely.
He's not saying this is what I agree. It's comedy, but in real life
So yeah, some of the
situations,
things
it
are kind
sucks.
of like I agree with this, and that's why it's funny, and you sort of
Yeah.
know where the comic's coming from. You know, so yeah, in a comedy sense, it's all generally okay. But then there's
So the biggest stereotype I would say, and then we really need to switch off this topic, is, you know, you're an African American in a white community, especially, you know, back in the day. I don't know about today, but you would get harassed. There's a good chance, especially when the Watts riot happened, where you were told, hey, you need to get back to where you belong, and that's not right. No matter what stereotype, you know, I've always kind of trying to judge a person.
Well, I've always noticed stereotypes in a certain sense, and for a lot of certain circumstances, that they're kind of like horoscopes. You know, they're more or less sort of universal to everybody, or for a large group of different people. For example, how many different countries could you just look at them and say, "You drunk bastards"?
The Irish.
A good part
The
of
Irish, the Germans, the Mexicans, the Americans,
Just say
the
Europe.
Australians. You know, that's a stereotype for 1,000 different cultures. You know, but if you just, you know, stereotype in that one sense, it makes sense to all of us. But when you narrow it down, you know, for comedy sense, it's funny. I don't have to explain fucking comedy to everybody, but you know.
No, but I do.
But these things stick, and then they get throughout the culture, and then people look for those stereotypes in other people.
I do have to say though, the one thing about the modern movement I'm really excited for, and I definitely think from what I understand it started with the '60s, is we're not as likely, at least from the people I know and speaking about myself, we're not as likely to agree with those stereotypes. I've never judged by the color of your skin, but the color of your character. I mean, if you're a dick, I'm going to call you on it. I don't really
Yeah,
care.
luckily when we were kids, we kind of had that Saturday morning special beat into us pretty efficiently. You know,
Yeah, that's right.
There's generation
half the
gaps
battle.
on either side of us, though, that have not had that sort of, you know, polite indoctrination into like, hey, let's treat everybody fucking equal.
Well, part of it for me, and I'm assuming that both of you guys can agree, was how I was raised. I mean, my dad grew up in the '60s. He was, and he was in some of these positions. He grew up in Santa Monica, which was in the middle of everything, at least on the West Coast. So my dad was always that way. Matter of fact, my grandfather would have beaten the crap out of my dad for saying the N-word to a black guy. Because, you know, my grandfather was, you know, my grandfather was an immigrant. So my dad would have gotten a mud-hole stomped into him if he said anything. So for my family, at least, it's a generational thing of saying, hey, you know, we're all equal, you know. Everybody bleeds the same fucking color.
Yeah, well, like I said before, I mean, you know, we're all way closer as individuals. We have way more in common as individuals than we do apart as a group.
And
you know,
I'm really happy that that's actually becoming something that people are finally agreeing with, because I've been saying it for years.
Yeah, also one of those things that I'm ashamed that's a fringe fucking thing, man. But, you know, like, fuck, you read the internet sometimes and you're just like, man, I hope this isn't indicative of a large group of people here.
I think what it is,
It actually kind of is.
and I heard this about a group with the incels. The benefit of...
Oh, Jesus
Well,
Christ,
hold on,
these
hold on.
guys freak me out.
The reason why people say, oh, there's a lot of incels is because instead of being one or two people in a small community, the internet's kind of a global community, so a bunch of these people can group together, so they're stuck in their echo chamber. That's
Right,
what the
yeah,
internet
yeah.
is. The internet allows you
People
to...
that would have otherwise never even met one friend that was into the weird shit they are can find the other 1,000 people in the entire world meet up in one room in the fucking internet.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
mean,
but dude, I watched some fucking Vice thing on the incel thing, and that freaked me out.
my
Like, I can't believe that these dudes are fucking gathering.
My favorite comment about that, I wish I could quote the person, because it was on some
fucking
internet
name.
site. The guy's comment was, why don't these guys just pay hookers? I was like,
I mean,
That's a legitimate question.
really?
But I think that's the issue with the internet. The other part about the internet I love and I hate is it's anonymous. Because if you realize that if your name is, you know, Bob's Burgers 252 and you're saying F this guy and F this guy, I'm going to kill this guy, nobody's going to care. But if it says, hey, this is Jeremy Schultz, you know, some dude's going to be knocking at your door. So the anonymous factor.
Yeah,
of the internet,
but see, and I'm of two minds about this too, you know, because yeah, there is sort of an accountability thing that we have in real life, and there's things that can be done on the internet that no civilization would ever accept. But it's like rule number 5 or 6 of the internet: anonymous is legion. You can't stop it.
Yeah, the other thing is online, I always try to be myself. If I wouldn't say it to somebody in real life, there's no chance I'm going to say it out on the internet. And that's always kind of helped me not to say anything that's probably, you know, out of the ordinary for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it actually really is interesting how it does take more of an effort to have a moral compass on the internet.
Oh, hell yeah, because it's your comment about the Legion thing is totally true. If somebody doesn't like somebody, you're going to have... Like, YouTube comments are the greatest example. You look up
The internet is anonymous. Anonymous is the internet.
Exactly.
Anonymous is legion.
If you look at YouTube comments, look up a woman doing anything. I don't care what she's doing. The comments she gets...
Jesus.
Like, why... If there's any women out there doing, like, even makeup tutorials on YouTube, you have a hell of a lot of balls. Because you look out at it, you get, like, normal women going, "Oh, hey, cool," and then you get the guy saying, or I'm assuming it's a guy, "You slut, why don't you blah blah blah?" It's like, oh my fucking god.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever done the troll satire better than South Park.
True, very true. Now, by the way,
if anybody hasn't seen that shit, god damn, do you need to watch the fucking? I wish I had the season offhand, but I might have even been like the last season before this new one just started.
Just give a description, and they can look it up based off your description.
Oh well, it was basically. Well, I don't want to. So, I'm worried about giving a spoiler for fucking South Park. If you haven't seen it by now, fuck you. But Randy ends up becoming the troll for. Wait, was it Randy or
last season?
Okay, that should be enough.
Yeah, it was last season, right? Yeah.
So James is about to say.
No, I was just gonna tell Ryan. Number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah, it's rule number 4 of the internet.
Oh, it's rule number 4. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
actually
look this up for me. Is it rule number 24 that if it exists, there's a porn of it?
No, that's rule 34.
Yeah, that's 34.
Oh, 34. Fuck.
Yeah. This is actually how it's written. There is porn of it, no exceptions. Rule 34 of the internet. What is Rule 34? Zelda, Pokemon, Rule 34, South Park, Rule 34, and Reddit 34. It's all on there basically saying that if you're trying to look to find out if it's true,
it's on Reddit.
That's why you check Zelda as a porn, Pokemon, South Park as a porn, and Reddit has porn. I'm just going to put that out there. Not all of Reddit is, but Reddit has a lot.
Yeah,
you could easily.
And I'm pretty sure if it exists, there's a furry porn of it also.
Yeah, and if it exists, there's a subreddit, or there was a subreddit about it.
Oh, and
yep, there's that one. Yeah,
I forgot this was Rule 35, but Rule 35: if no porn is found of it, it will be made.
It will be made. Yeah,
I don't think that exists anymore.
Bless these people who fucking make the
Rule
rules.
34, or the fact that
if it doesn't
you need
exist,
35.
I'm pretty sure.
I guarantee you, John, there is more new porn shit gonna come out.
That's the only problem. Is there's stuff I'd randomly love to find, but the problem is then I'd end up finding it, and then I'd have to I should have seen it.
I mean, one of my favorite videos.
This is the shit that makes me proud of the internet. The fact that these rules exist and the fact how many of them are true.
Okay, I want to see if Ryan knows
how
about
many
this.
of them are possible.
Do you know about not the World of Warcraft, but it was Warcraft back in the day, of the song that was made about them, called "The Internet is Porn"?
Oh,
is
yes.
For porn. This came out in the early 2000s, and it's just a video of the World of Warcraft's characters just dancing around singing "The Internet is for porn." It's hilarious. Look it up, Ryan. If you haven't seen it, you need to.
I do have a question for you. James and I were talking about this a little bit ago. Was about like obscure types of movie. Like it seems like the more you're in the movies, especially like when you're Hollywood, the stranger your movies become. Whether you talk about some of the Jean-Luc Godard movies, Syriana, like stuff that normal people won't watch, but somehow it wins a bunch of awards, even though like 5 people and one guy from Nebraska actually watched.
What was the Jean-Luc Godard film that we did with Jeff? Do you guys remember?
Band Apart?
Yes.
Which, by the way, I liked most of it.
Now, that's kind of what I brought up. That's where we started with this conversation. Is for me, the movie went to complete shit once they said, do you know how long a minute of silence is in a film? And they did fucking 20 seconds. I timed it. If you're going to do that, it better goddamn be a full fucking minute. I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. Dig him up and make him do a new film.
By the way, shout out to our lost brother. I really miss you, man.
I do like Jeff. But I pointed that out with Jeff. He tried to argue with me that it was a minute. I'm like, no, dude. No. Go watch your film again.
Go watch the episode of Real Flicks Reviews. At this point, I couldn't tell you the number, but it was an interesting episode.
It was.
Yeah, I don't like when movies just blatantly to your fucking face, bold face lie to you. Like, I understand. Listen, we're all agreeing that this is a magic trick that you're doing. Don't after the show tell me no, I'm actually doing real magic. You know what I mean? Like the blatant lie, like that, dude. I can find out very easily that was not a minute. What the fuck?
Exactly.
You know what? I was watching. Do you remember that movie from the 90s, The Ghost in the Darkness?
Yes.
I do like that film still. I haven't seen it in a long time.
I like that fucking movie, but I was
Val
watching
Kilmer,
it the
right?
other day.
Yes, and Michael
Val
Douglas.
Kilmer and Michael Douglas.
Yep.
I was watching it the other day, and in the beginning of the movie, I'd forgotten this part was in there. It was the voiceover saying, no, it was the other guy, black dude in the movie.
Lawrence Fishburne?
Not Sam Jackson or Lawrence Fishburne. No. I'm pretty sure he's actually African.
I said Morgan Freeman, too.
John Canny? It's the guy who played Samuel?
Oh, God. That's a long time since I've seen this film. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, regardless, in the beginning, there's a voiceover that says, this film, everything that happens in this film is true. Even goes on to say, even the parts that seem most fantastical actually happened. Okay, so you give me that kind of a fucking disclaimer in a movie, expect me to look it up, and then I find out that, no, a lot of that stuff was sort of fabricated.
Well, that's Hollywood, too, so anything Hollywood
But
says is a bullshit lie.
okay, Hollywood went out of their way to say, like, hey, this is actually happening. I know I've lied to you in the past, but this one is actually true.
Well, a couple of things is this was release date was October 11th, 1996. So I think we were a little bit gullible back then. And holy shit, this movie's budget was only $45 million. And today's films, that would be a low budget movie.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, that'd be like a high budget indie movie.
So this movie, because I actually saw
I take that back. You're able to film movies a lot cheaper than you were able to back then.
This one
There's only a handful of movies that they drop $100 million on, and it's all CGI.
Like I saw this movie back in the day, and it was one of these movies that you knew it going in. If it's a Hollywood movie, it's some of these are true events, and then any of the.
But Ryan's got a good point.
Look, I'm used to
blatantly
based on
outright
true
say
events.
it's true, and then it's not.
I would say that's storytelling, though. Even though I actually kind of agree, it's bullshit, but it gets you into the movie
that
more.
Was a fucking narrator disclaimer saying, "Hey, this happened." No, really. This actually happened.
No, I agree, but I also think that was part of the story to try to get you into the movie more, because let's be honest, some of this movie dragged. Even for the time it was made, there were some slow fucking.
Oh
parts
yeah, no,
in this
there was a few unnecessary scenes in that, like for sure. I like the movie just because I like the story, and it is still an interesting story. The guy actually himself wrote a book like 10 years after it actually happened to him, where these lions started attacking this railroad when it was being built in Africa. Connecting two different parts. They were two male lions that actually started attacking during the day and taken out, like, I think the actual number real life was like 35, 40 people. They sort of got inflated to like 100 or 130.
So
but,
I think the book is The Man-Eaters of, and I'm really sorry, it's Salo,
yeah.
and other East African Adventures by Lieutenant Colonel J.H. Patterson, DSO.
Yeah,
that would be pretty freaking freaky, having lions coming and just
by the way,
killing you.
They actually killed him. They killed him and stuffed him. And if I remember correctly, I thought they were in the British Museum. They may not be now, but I thought
they're actually in some Chicago museum. I can't remember the name of. Yeah, I looked up the picture the other day. Apparently, they have no manes. They were maneless male lions.
Whoa!
I thought that was interesting. They looked fucking weird.
So my thing is, like, if you have a 500-pound lion, two of them, because that's almost average weight for a full-grown male African lion, attacking your people, that's kind of freaking scare the shit out of you.
My other one would never go in the bush with an untested rifle.
Yeah, that's a great line. Well, that's good advice anyway.
That's what she said.
Watch the movie. That's actually a great movie. I mean, that was one of the movies you look back on now and you say, wow, Michael Douglas had some good roles.
Yeah, we did some Michael Douglas films here.
Because some of his movies I wasn't a fan of, but you see that and it's like, that dude has some range.
Yeah.
Because I still the same way about, like, do you guys have any movies that you saw you originally hated the actor and then you started to like? Because mine is still Elijah Woods and Everything Is Illuminated, because it's still one of my all-time favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. That one and Green Street Hooligans, just because I'm a sucker for a fucking fight movie.
And he did play a really good creepy character in Sin City.
Yeah, no shit.
I
Didn't say a word, but that.
Yeah.
There's some emotional attachment for me in that movie, just because of me and James seeing it together. And, we're snarky as hell, and we didn't say a single thing after the movie. We just went, wow, for like the 35-minute drive back home.
Now,
yeah, I think we had a pretty relatively similar reaction after watching Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Yes, more. And then you got the second one. Ugh.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be Russell Crowe. Like, I did not like him until A Beautiful Mind. I really didn't.
You don't even like, because every guy I know, even motivational speakers, love Gladiator.
No,
be like a gladiator. It's like,
that's one of his worst movies ever.
Oh, by the way, I've been in a seminar, and that's what guy, be like Maximus. And my comment was, you mean die at the end?
You will. Eventually, you will die at the end.
They didn't particularly like my version of snark when, you got to be like Maximus. It's like, no, I don't want to be like a guy who got killed by a king or emperor or whatever his name was.
Freaking hair lip.
And so you have to understand with James that if you're doing a historical based movie, you better make that the most historically accurate thing of all fucking time.
God, don't even get me started on Gladiator.
Or James will fucking pick that shit apart.
Don't even get me started on
Gladiator. Have you seen, wasn't there a movie that was recently released that was about Churchill? Haven't you guys seen that?
Yes.
How good was that?
Yeah, actually, I haven't even seen
really
that. The
good.
Darkest Hour with Gary
John
Oldman.
Lithgow.
I fucking want to see it.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I do want to see that one too. But John Lithgow.
Well, no, the Darkest Hour was the one where fucking Oldman finally won the Oscar. We gotta watch that movie. Come on.
The Oldman one. Yeah, never mind. I'm over in a different thing.
Because it was one of the ones.
I do want to see that one.
Because this Churchill to me is one of the most interesting.
He was a
characters in history, especially
interesting guy.
One of the more interesting things for me is what they ended up doing for far as Britain goes, as far as making like the War Act. If you didn't actually produce a certain amount of food as a farmer in England, they'd actually confiscate the farm and give it to somebody else, so you could actually make more food. So all this stuff that he did makes him an incredibly fascinating character to me.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, speaking to your point earlier, as far as actors that I didn't like, but then enjoyed in something later on, John Lithgow's one of those for me. I was not a Third Rock from the Sun fan, but all of a sudden he's in Dexter whacking people, and I'm like, oh shit, who's this guy?
You know who my favorite movie he's in, just because I saw it as a kid and I really liked it, was Buckaroo Banzai.
Never saw that movie, actually.
It was such a wacky character that it kind of made me really like him. And I agree, I'm not a fan of Third Rock. My wife loves it.
I was for a bit. I haven't seen it since it was actually on network television on Friday nights. I didn't despise his role in that, but it wasn't one I was a big fan of. But like you said, once he came out in Dexter, I mean, it was... You could see the man can act. And I did kind of screw up. He played Churchill in the movie. He played Churchill on the Netflix The Crown show. And
okay.
He did. I mean, if you haven't seen him in that, you should check that one out, Ryan. But that's actually a decent show as well.
I don't know. I like John Lithgow. I'd actually have to see his back catalog of stuff to be able to name something in particular.
He's got a large repertoire of film and television.
Oh, by the way, did you guys see the new Rambo pictures?
No.
You guys got to look it up. Was it Rambo 6 or 5? He's dressed up in a... God, where is it? The one I saw is a picture of him.
There's no way this is Sylvester Stallone.
No, it is. The one of him being
looking
like
There's no fucking
cowboy.
way. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone is doing another Rambo?
So if you look up the picture...
What is he, 75?
That's what I was just kind of thinking.
Yeah, about that. But it's him dressed up as a cowboy. So I'm kind of hoping... So here's my thought. I'm really hoping they go back to what the first one was. And kind of, instead of being an action movie, I'd love to see it more of just him at the end of his life, you know? Here, James.
Oh, old man Rambo?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
But
oh, hilarious.
And then the Hulk comes to fuck with him, or the sheriff comes back, or no, he's dead, right? Yeah, but the new sheriff in town comes to Comes to rustle his feathers a little bit.
Nah, I'd actually like to see
just
it.
when he thought just when he thought he was out, they pulled him back in.
No, I was actually kind of hoping.
Really?
I was ignoring it on purpose. I was more hoping.
That still actually makes me laugh. But...
I was more.
I'm sorry. I would never, ever, under normal circumstances, quote Godfather fucking 3 of all things, but it just fit.
I was hoping it was going to be like Rambo at the end of his life, more of a like heavy drama, you know, about still like dealing with a PTSD a little bit.
You know
more,
what?
Stuff like that.
Dude, that want to talk about a swan song? That would be the greatest possible move of all time. If Sylvester Stallone actually went back to what kind of the first one represented as just a great sort of dramatic movie that had like a few tense moments in it.
Yeah, like because of the end of Rambo 4, he went back to his parents' farm. So I'd love to see that, you know, him at the end of his life, working land, kind of basically taking stock of his life. I would totally see that because the first one...
Do it Gran Torino style, where he's got to save some neighboring Korean farmer or something. Doesn't have to be Korean, any kind of Asian.
The rumor I heard, let's see, where's the... Okay, so here's the premise. Rambo travels to Mexico to save a friend's daughter who has been kidnapped by the Mexican cartel. So it's basically going to be Rambo 3 most likely.
No, it's going to be like the Mexican version of Taken.
Just when.
But this still
it basically is
Taken. This still has the potential to kind of be like, I would love to see it a little bit. The swan song, as Ryan said, a more serious movie, a kind of take on everything. They could do it because they tried to do it in the fourth one, but it just didn't work to me. Probably because the third one was so hokey. The second one was okay. The third one was just fucking awful. Funny movie, though. Oh, when it comes to Rambo movies, look at his knife. The more movies, the longer his knife. Last time, he had a sword. I'm expecting this time...
Dude, he's going to have a fucking claymore.
You just stole my words.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. Did I step on your fucking joke? My bad.
No, but it's true. Because that knife he had was that he made out of that leaf spring.
That was bigger than a wakizashi, and I mean that's a katana blade to me.
Me and James used to joke about this all the time back in the day, like, because the next thing you know, he's got like a machete, and we're like, what the fuck is coming next? And we just started listing the largest weapons of all time. And comes in with like a Final Fantasy VII sword.
He made a little bit longer of a machete. That's it. That's literally what he made.
Yeah.
So principal photography began on October 2nd, 2018 in Bulgaria. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
and November 11th, Sylvester Stallone suffers massive coronary in Bulgaria.
It was previously scheduled. I'm trying to think of why Mexico's across the border. You think with this, why go to Bulgaria?
Probably because they're trying to charge our film crews a shit ton just because Trump's fucking with them.
Oh, you know, do you think this could be part, and this is completely just an idea, do you think this is part of him trying to, going back to the stuff he's done, you know, wasting his life, this, doing that, you know, kind of, you know, the having to deal with him being a soldier? You know, the warrior's way type of thing.
Oh, I think that's a little bit much, John. Stretching. I mean,
yes. No, it's thin. It's like 3-2 beer, but come on.
You're talking about the plot of the upcoming movie, like you.
Well, I'm trying to think of why would they film in Bulgaria, because from what I know, it doesn't really look like Mexico. So
I don't know. I mean, that has been sort of the underpinning of all of the movies, more or less, is the soldier's misfortune as it is.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was thinking of, because that was on the second one. That was kind of what his spiel at the end, and the bad guy said, "What do you want?" And he said, "I want what everybody else wants," you know, type of speech.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have high hopes.
I think he's given that same speech about 12 times in different movies.
I've had high hopes for every Rambo movie, but unfortunately, the only one that still at least comes close to being a cinematic masterpiece is the first one.
Oh, the first one is an amazing movie, and I'll defend it as such. I've enjoyed like maybe 2 or 3 of the other ones.
I like the other one, all of them, but the first one to me was the best comment about Vietnam on film.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Oh yeah, no, that was just a spectacular piece of. I mean, they should teach that in shit in classes. It was a good movie.
I mean, I'd loved
But
that
I'm saying
one.
I can't defend the other ones, but I still enjoyed the shit out of some of them.
Oh, no. Like the third one, the funniest one is the third one actually says this one was made for all the people fighting the Russians in Afghanistan. And then, so many years later, there we are, ass ended into it. I'll see it. I don't think I'll see it in theaters, but it is still something I want to see.
I actually liked the fourth one where they had the Barrett 50 cal exploding people's heads. That was
Yeah.
cool. But I mean, that's a bloody fun mess. That's all that film really was. It wasn't. You weren't there for the storyline. You were there for just the killing.
Actually, the coolest thing about the story, if I remember correctly, is the guy playing the general was actually from there and has family still there and knew like making the film would probably get his family in trouble. But if I remember correctly, did it for people knew how much of a hellhole it was. So I think it had a good message. I just think the issue was it just wasn't that good of a movie. I mean, I don't know. There's so much to it that could have been better.
Yeah, but
Hey guys, I got a call coming on the other line. I got a bail.
Bye.
But I mean, as far as the Rambo films go, I think choosing a cartel.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to figure out. That's why I really wanted to be more about what I'm saying versus the cartel, because I think that would be awesome. It's, Rambo picking up his sword one last time. This is Rambo's swan song. It would probably even be cool at the end of the film. He saves her, but he dies. Kind of like all his men died in Vietnam. If you watch the first one, all of his friends either died in Vietnam or died because of complications from what happened in Vietnam. So I think it'd be a great way to end the film as Rambo dies.
Yeah.
The soldier's way of not dying on his back type of thing.
But to me, this kind of sounds like Rocky 12?
Yeah, I mean, talk about that. There's the new one where his Apollo Creed's son is fighting. Oh God, what is it? It's Ivan Dolph's character. Dolph, basically, Dolph's is a trainer. So I don't know. I mean, did you see the last Apollo? I saw half of it and didn't.
No, I've never had real interest in any of the Rockies. I've seen a couple of them, but
the first
really
one
wasn't my thing.
I think I've seen them all. They're not my favorite. I like the first one. The one with Tommy Machine Gun I like just because it's hilarious.
I think
Rocky, the actual just titled Rocky, I really liked. I thought that was pretty good. Minus the fact it's unrealistic where an old arthritic fighter is going to fight a young kid. I didn't see how that would be possible.
Yeah. All right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the MadTrio podcast is getting a little short. Ryan had to go.
Just personal matters.
No, come on, we just say he was in the car and
he had to go find his hemorrhoid pillow.
I was thinking more another John was calling.
Oh, that could be it.
He was doing tricks and the
guy put his stripper boots back on.
The guy lives in L.A., man. He has to pay his rent somehow.
What a joke.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for Jonathan Charney, James Stevens, and the aforementioned third man, as always, thank you for listening.